Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. So today I have kind of like an information type of video for you guys. I'm going to be sharing some tips regarding video calling K-pop idols, which has become a big thing nowadays. I've been calling Asian from Vernon for over a year now, I think. So I really want to show you guys some tips that I've learned throughout this process, and just to help out anyone that's like thinking about starting to video call idols. If you're a fan of Vernon, I definitely recommend calling them. They're so fun. They all have great personalities and they're like very good at keeping the conversation going. But without further ado, let's get into the tips. So tip one I have is time zones. So I use World Buddy and I always check it before I purchase. I go ahead and I see when the time is that they're closing tickets, and I also check when the video call actually starts. That way to make sure that I'm going to actually be free at that time, or else I'm spending money and I'm not able to do the call at all, because most of the times they don't do returns. So definitely check your time zones before you purchase, just to make sure you will actually be able to call them. Tip number two I have is setup. So that just means being prepared. If you're going to be waiting a long time, you think, for the calls, definitely have some snacks on hand, a drink. I also like to put in the notes to make sure that your background is nice. Don't have anything that you don't want them to see in the background, because most of the times they will see it and they will say something about it, which I mean makes for good conversation. But if it's something you really don't want them to see, make sure you hide it. Number three, lighting. I think, to me, lighting's super important. I always have like my ring light set up behind it, or I always carry like one of those tiny cell phone lights with me, just to make sure that my lighting's going to be good, just in case. Most of the time the calls I do are at nighttime, so I just want to make sure they'll be able to see me, you know. Tip number four is to have questions and topics ready. So I suggest having your notebook set to the side with at least 3 to 5 questions or topics you want to mention. That way you avoid as much awkward silence as possible, because you do have a set time, so you don't want half the time to be you sitting there like, right. We want to avoid that at all times. And most of the times if you start a topic, they will keep it going, which is very good. Sometimes you will have translators though sitting across from them or next to them to help them translate something back to you. Tip 5 is to speak slow and breathe. Most of the time their first language is not going to be the same one as yours, so I've learned through experience that they'll just be like, what? Whenever you say something too fast, or they'll ask you to repeat them yourself, which could take up some time because, you know, you're on a set time. So make sure you speak slow, your like pronunciation's correct, you're trying your best so that they can understand you and you guys will be able to hold a good conversation. Number 6 is something that I use a lot, is ID icebreakers. So once you are like in the call list and whatnot, and I use Zoom for all mine, so in Zoom you can change your name, so you can put like your display name and then something else. So I've done it where I put like a little note, and then that like becomes a topic. So there was one time where I asked him to marry me and he brought it up in the call, and I'm gonna add that in right here.
I saw your profile message. Yeah. It was 한국 나라 결혼해줘, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, you won't marry me?
I do. Do you want to marry me?
Yeah.
So as you can see, it can add for like very playful things to happen. Like you can just say, oh, I missed you a lot, or you look nice today, and stuff like that. Just like things that they'll see as your like call is loading up for them. Tip number 7 is to review the rules, of course. So each one I think comes with different sets of rules, and it usually just is regarding like recording. Usually sometimes, for the most part, is allowed, but some companies don't let you share the recording, so definitely be careful of that, because you don't also want to get blacklisted from the future events as well. Most of the times it will say that you are the only person that can be in the camera, and that if a second person shows up, they're gonna cut your call. So definitely be careful of that. Just read all the rules, make sure you're super prepared for it. Tip 8 I have is for screen recording. I don't actually have tips for Androids, but I know there's a screen record button on the iPhone, so definitely just utilize that, play around with it, get used to it. That's my only tip for screen recording, unfortunately. Make sure you have Do Not Disturb on. I don't know if it actually works or if nobody just manages to text me during the time of my calls, but you know, better safe than not, because you don't want your screen recording just to be like 50 messages appearing the entire time and like blocking some of the calls. Do you? No, nobody does. Or just do what I do and text everybody that you're currently texting to shut up and leave you alone for like an hour till your call's done, which works as well. Tip number 9 I have is for audio recording. So the way I do it is that I just have a secondary phone just lying around with the audio recording, or even doing an additional video where I'm just on the camera app just recording the audio at the same time. So however you want to do it, and then I use iMovie to put the video and the audio together, and then that creates what I use for TikTok. Tip number 10, which is going to be my last one, is to be respectful and have fun with it. Because at the end of the day, this is your time, so definitely be respectful. It's their time too. So if you're gonna ask about a different member, that's just really messed up. You should have just called that member. Definitely just keep it nice and casual and everything like that. Try not to come off offensive or anything, and just really have fun and be yourself. I hope this video helps for a lot of you that are thinking about doing video calls, and I hope you guys have a lot of fun. If you want to check out any of my video calls, I do post some little clips of it over here on my TikTok if you want to check that out, and I'll see you guys in another video. Thanks, have a great day.